Ibrahim Freirat is a professor of conflict resolution at the Doha Institute for Graduate Studies, and he's joining us live from Rabat. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Freirat. I'm assuming that you could hear our coverage, our correspondent, Hani Mahmoud, who was telling us about the latest deadly attack, which we have been seeing very disturbing pictures of, the latest deadly attack on civilians in central Gaza. The UN Security Council met on Friday, just yesterday, about the worsening humanitarian situation. How is this situation being allowed to continue?
Well, unfortunately, this situation has been going on for over 10 months, and there has been tremendous pressure on the Israeli government to stop this war from almost all over the world, with the exception of a serious pressure from Washington, D.C. And this is how Benjamin Netanyahu managed all this long, is to abuse the support that he receives from Washington, D.C., from both Democrats and Republican parties, in order to use it for his own political survival. And as long as he's receiving this support from Washington, then he's continuing with this genocide that he's committing in Gaza.
Have you seen anything to show that that support from the U.S., that there could be a change in that support from the U.S.?
Well, there is definitely changes in the statements, especially within the Democratic Party, where over 112 congressmen boycotted his speech in the Congress, Benjamin Netanyahu's speech in the Congress. But the actual support from the U.S. administration in terms of shelling this government from any diplomatic pressure in the Security Council, the U.S. vetoed 4 proposals in the past to stop the war in Gaza and provided the support that he needed to continue this war, and supported him financially, militarily, in terms of the weapons and the bombs that they're providing. So in terms of action, there hasn't been any concrete actions. There are statements. And there are now the Democratic Party in particular, with the coming elections, that this started to hurt them. And that's why we're seeing statements different coming from presidential candidate Kamala Harris, saying that I will not be silent about the genocide or about the disaster, to use her exact words, in Gaza.
And so far, really, they are just statements, aren't they? She said that she wouldn't be silent about the tragedies, is the word that she used. I mean, many would say that they are not tragedies, that they are war crimes that are taking place, including the world's top courts. And that's why the statements are just statements. Like you said, there's been no action. Do there needs to be more action from other countries that are not the United States, that are condemning, again, with statements, what's happening, but more action from those countries, on Israel, and also more pressure put on the United States to use the leverage it has with Israel?
This is an excellent question. Thank you for this. And actually, to answer your question, the action or the pressure from other governments, especially European governments, should be on the U.S. administration, not only on the Israeli government, because the Israeli government basically does not care about any pressure from anywhere in the world, including Europe, by the way, because there have been many serious statements and actions. Let's keep in mind that 4 European countries recognized the state of Palestine: Spain, Ireland, Norway, Slovenia. So during this nightmare, this genocide, but this does not seem to yield any concrete changes in Benjamin Netanyahu's war. The pressure should be on the United States, where the U.S. administration feels more isolated in the world in their action. And it is the U.S. administration. Let's keep in mind that the U.S. Congress is the only parliament in the world today that provides this kind of platform to Netanyahu to deliver a bunch of lies that he delivered in his speech. But no other parliament in the world would be willing to give him this platform, including in Europe. And again, we are seeing changes also in the British position after the arrival of the Labour Party to power there, in terms of sanctioning some support of some weapon supplies, especially the offensive weapon supplies, and also changes on the UK position on the objection that there is on the ICC trial of Benjamin Netanyahu. So we are seeing changes there.
All right.
The more the US administration feels isolated, the more serious pressure would put in Netanyahu to end the genocide that's taking place in Gaza.
Mr. Freyhat, thank you very much for your analysis. That's Ibrahim Freyhat live in Rabat.
Now I'll speak to Ibrahim Freyhat, who's a professor of conflict resolution at the Doha Institute for Graduate Studies, joining us from Rabat. Welcome back to Al Jazeera. So, look, reading between the lines, how important is it for Netanyahu to have a strong relationship with Trump, given the prospect that Trump may once again become president of the U.S., and of course the U.S. is Israel's main arms supplier and protector?
Well, this meeting between Netanyahu and Trump is very important for the two of them, the two politicians. First of all, we know that there is a high level of animosity between the two of them. They don't like each other, especially with regards to Netanyahu's position back 4 years ago when he congratulated Biden against Trump, and Trump expressed his concerns many times and his dislikes of Netanyahu many times regarding this. However, the two of them now are searching for political support. So two politicians meeting, seeking support for each other, where Netanyahu is the pressure on him from all over the world, including now changes in the positions of the Democratic Party.
Right.
So he's resorting to Trump to support him. And Trump now is abusing this and using this in order to use it for his election campaign, where he attacked Kamala Harris and explicitly said no Jewish person should vote for Kamala Harris. So it's very obvious political abuse by both of them, that they're seeking this manipulation in order to manipulate the situation and support each other.
Look, there are many from Israel itself and outside who think that Netanyahu isn't interested in a ceasefire and he's been sabotaging any attempt at that. Is Netanyahu gambling on waiting out the Biden administration, hoping that Trump wins, and that way then he can get more of what he wants in terms of any deal going forward?
Certainly. This is his last hope, actually, and that's why he's prolonging the ceasefire negotiations and adding, we have seen his attitude in the past 2 weeks, adding new conditions to the negotiations, including, for example, not withdrawal from the Philadelphia borders with Egypt, and also vetoing some of the names of the in the prisoners' exchange that he does not want to be released, and so forth. So these are all tactics that he's using in order to prolong, with the hope that when Trump comes to power, if he wins the elections, because he's still hoping, this is his last hope, that things will change, because I think he is losing, or he started losing the ground with the Democratic Party again.
According to Israeli media, what they're reporting is that they're saying, they're describing Netanyahu's comments that have come out of the U.S. and his tone as measured optimism on a Gaza ceasefire. And of course, we know there are a round of talks that are expected to start in Rome in the next few days. Has anything changed since his trip to the U.S.? Why is this seen by some as measured optimism?
We have seen, this is totally, Doreen, a psychological pressure, a game that Netanyahu is playing. He has done this before many times. And the way he's using and abusing this in order to show that we are optimists, we are hoping a deal will be made. It's just Hamas who's refusing this. He has used this many times over the past months, and to discover later on with U.S. administration recognition that it's Netanyahu who's blocking this any agreement. So this is just an old tactic that he has been using, and he's using it again. Unless pressure has been exacerbated and more pressure on Netanyahu and especially by the U.S. administration, he will not sign a deal. And he will continue. And even if he agrees on some sort of an agreement, he will only agree on it until he dives into the next elections, where he has made it so explicit that I will have the right to continue back to fighting.
Right.
So this is his old tactics that he's using. We're seeing it again and again.
All right. Thank you so much, Ibrahim Fraihat. Thanks for speaking to us from Rabat.